We are in an era where YouTube, Instagram accounts, TikTok are all seen as digital assets, meaning they have intrinsic and esoteric value as well as real monetary value. With that being said, in the recent awakening of so much death around us, especially regarding prominent, although controversial YouTubers like Kevin Samuels, I wanted to share something interesting as to what happens to digital assets once a person dies, specifically a YouTube channel once a person dies, once the creator has died. So stay tuned if you're interested and curious about this. This is the legal code, and on this channel we discuss a wide range of legal topics, whether that's to help your small business or dealing with estate plans and death or real estate. We discuss it here. If you like that sort of thing, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and of course share with anyone else you think will find value. Also, I have some legal coaching slots available, so if you would like the chance to meet with me one-on-one to do a deep dive, there is some slots available. You can just click the link in the description box and we will go through whatever your questions are. It's a comprehensive consultation, and then you will walk away feeling confident as to what to do with your business, your estate plan, real estate, whatever it may be. I specialize in a diverse array of areas. Now let's get into this video. As a general rule, all digital assets that you own that are transferable will be included in your estate when you die. You can use your will to determine who will get such digital asset. Transferable digital assets certainly include anything that is worth money, but may also include things that have intrinsic value, like I said, something that may be sentimental. And if you own it, you can transfer it. You should be able to include it in your will. If you own it, it can be transferred or given to somebody else. Examples of transferable assets include your funds in your PayPal account, funds owned to you by an online store like Amazon or Etsy, also Bitcoin, digital music or photos that you can that you own, also frequent flyer miles, maybe, but this is depending on the policy of the issuing company. So these are just an example of some transferable digital assets. If you do not name a specific beneficiary for these digital assets, they will pass to your residuary beneficiary or beneficiaries in your will. You may also be able to use your will to transfer digital assets that you have a license, like a domain name or a copyright, but this depends on whether the terms of the licensing agreement allows you to transfer at death. This is very important. A lot of people think that they own something. They own a technology like Adobe or Canva or I don't know, whatever it may be on a digital platform. But in fact, you have the license to use it, because if you owned it, it would be very, very expensive. You have the license to use it, but you have to check the agreement. You know, all of the terms and conditions that everyone just clicks over, no one reads it except for lawyers. That is determining whether or not you have a license or whether or not you actually own the digital asset. So check your agreements. Practically speaking, most of your digital assets won't pass through your will, usually because you do not own it. You do not have the right to transfer them. Even if you have real value, because you don't own it, you don't have the right to transfer it, and you do not have the right to transfer the license to use it to anyone else upon your death. You cannot pass them through your will. A clear example of this is your email, your social media accounts. You don't own these accounts. You have the license to use them, and upon your passing, the company can recoup the license. And your inability to transfer your account to another person is clearly limited in the terms and conditions that you agree to, that you click past in order to use the technology. So if you think there's a way out of it, there's not. You already agreed to the terms and conditions, and by use, you have shown further agreement to the terms and conditions when you open the account. Examples of digital assets that won't pass through your will include, like I said, your social media account and your email. non-transferable domains that you've licensed. What else? Subscription accounts like Netflix or Spotify. As we've seen recently, Netflix has been very stringent in how people use their license, even in how their personal use of the license, and limiting use to households. Spotify as well, apps on your phone or tablet, and the data that they may contain, all licensed. You don't own it. And you said okay when you click the terms and conditions. Now let's look at YouTube. YouTubers create a community where their fans, their supporters flock to it. Once that notification bell rings, we wait, many of us with bating breath, for our favorite content creators to release a video. Upon their passing, their channels may symbolize or stand as memorials, a way to remember the fallen YouTube creator. And so when that YouTuber dies, this leaves many people, millions sometimes, of loyal subscribers wondering and clinging to the years of content that they had passionately put out. In their passing, their body of work becomes a symbolic of their legacy, a way to remember them, as well as a museum for fans and onlookers to periodically check in and reference and gain inspiration or laugh. But this begs a curious question. Will this museum ever close? Will the videos be deleted at some time in the future, given the channel's inactivity? What happens to a YouTube channel when the creator passes away? The answer may surprise you. After several hours of searching for this answer, I realized that this is a new frontier. Although YouTube and its social media platforms alike have been around for years, and we're so comfortable with them, it's part of our everyday existence, there are certain legal areas that have not been covered or confronted with as it relates to social media, and they're not ironed out. Therefore, it's very not comprehensive. There's not a lot of answers, and there's a lot of gray areas. That's usually how the law works. The law is always 20 years behind, even probably 30 years behind what's going on in terms of technology. It has not caught up with dealing with social media when a person dies, and so it's a little clumsy in this area. But let's look at Google as a case study. If a person dies, what would this look like? How will Google handle it? And as YouTube is owned by Google, or a part of subsidiary, I'm not exactly sure how it works, of Google, according to Google, there are two official options regarding a deceased person user's account. Now take a look here. Look at this. So I went in and pretended as if I was planning, or essentially did my estate plan through Google, how I wanted my account to be handled. Now, Google states that it will abide by the creator's plans or desires, provided they had mapped it out using the inactive account manager feature. And I'll insert the link here. So Google says that if the user has went in and decided to map out what that user wants to do with their account, Google will honor it. This is the best way for you to let Google know that who should have access to your information in your account, whether you want your account to be deleted and when. The default for deletion after inactivity is surprisingly 3 months, but this has to be changed by the administrator or the user. It could be changed to 6 months, to 12 months, or 18 months. Google looks at several signals to understand whether you are still using your Google account. These include your last sign-ins, your recent inactivity and my activity, usage on Gmail, the Gmail app on your phone, and Android check-ins. In the absence of activity for the prerequisite amount of time, again, you will have to go in and set up what the prerequisite time is. Google will start to begin wrapping up your account and closing it out and contacting the trusted person that you have designated and named. Sidebar: this is an additional designation to make as part of your comprehensive estate plan, but be sure to also include these instructions for your YouTube or your digital assets in your will as well, so that your executor is aware. Most people neglect this aspect and too often die without considering this as part of their estate plan, or they forget that they have a digital presence, or they treat this as not an asset. Or alternatively, they may seek out an attorney who's not aware of social media and that these are assets, and neglect to include this as part of their estate plan. And so it gets overlooked. When I meet with a person, in fact, I've had an estate planning client this morning, I comb through everything they could have possibly owned: Google, Amazon, Apple, Facebook, Etsy, everything, to be as comprehensive as possible, and so that no stone is left unturned. And all of you are very aware of what you own. So if you're meeting with someone to do your estate plan, and if they're not looking at your digital assets as part of your estate plan, that's a red flag that you should probably find another attorney. Now, back to Google. If a person has made designations through Google, they have selected who they wish to be able to access the account, download the content, and closed out the account. If you decided to allow someone to download your account, they'll be able to do so for 3 months. So from the time you pass the designated amount of time of inactivity, in that time, Google will then contact your trusted person. Once that person is contacted, that person then has 3 months to download everything before everything gets deleted. Again, you have to change the default time of inactivity. Your trusted person will then receive a notification once your account has been inactive for that specified amount of time. They will not receive any other notifications during setup. Like if you go into setup after this video, they won't receive notification, but based on the inactivity time you have selected. If you choose to only notify your contact for your inactivity account, they'll receive an email with the subject line and the content that you write during setup. So you can write a personalized, a customized email alerting to them, say, hey, whoever, my dear husband, if you're receiving this, I've obviously have passed away. I've designated you as to be the trusted person to carry on and download my body of work from YouTube before YouTube deletes it. They have a customized email that will also be sent out if you do not write a custom email. They have a default email that they will send out if you do not customize the email that's sent to your trusted person. Alternatively, if you don't want to do that, you can choose to delete your Google account without selecting anyone to have control over your account. This will happen automatically after the designated amount of time, if selected 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, whatever. This will include your publicly shared data, for example, your YouTube videos, your blogs, whatever. I think Blogger will happen after 3 months. So what happens when your account gets deleted? Deleting your Google account will affect all products associated with that account: Blogger, AdSense, Gmail, and affects each product differently. You can review the data associated with the account on the Google dashboard. If you use Gmail with your account, you'll no longer be able to access that account. You'll also be unable to use your Gmail username. It goes into like cyberspace, I guess. Google also recognizes that many people pass away without taking these steps. There might be 99% of people who do not take these steps and do not leave clear instructions as to their YouTube channel. And so Google provides a second option for those who have not been able to take these steps. If there's no plan in place, then a family member or personal representative can apply for 3 options. 1, close the account of a deceased user, submit a request for funds from the deceased user's account, and lastly, obtain data from a deceased user's account. Now, to close an account or obtain data, you will have to enter your information, the death certificate, and any other pertinent information giving you authority to close the account. The pertinent information is the letters of administration from the court giving you authority to act on behalf of the estate. So again, you will have to probate the estate, showing that you have the authority to make this call. Now, to request funds from AdSense, that person will have to have also court appointment papers naming him or her as the executor or having the authority to collect the funds. In the absence of probating the person's estate, you will not be able to collect the money, the funds in ads from AdSense. And you will need the administrative papers giving you the authority to do this. The thing with this is that probating an estate takes a significant amount of time. It takes more than 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, sometimes 2 years. So while that money is sitting there in AdSense, you won't be able to access it until you have the authority to access it. That's the downside, and that's why I say the law has not caught up with the technology. Therefore, those funds in AdSense will likely keep earning up until a certain point. But the thing is, the account of the person who passed away will likely be locked out and won't be able to receive the money from AdSense. So AdSense will then probably have to send the money to the comptroller or lost funds, because that account is no longer able to receive money. Because this is just a tip: once a person dies, all accounts belonging to that person, a sort of APB goes out, and all accounts are frozen and held until the estate is handled. Just a long story short of it. So because the AdSense system doesn't know that the account owner has passed away, the system will just automatically continue to make payments using the payment system set up by the user. So if you are the rightful heir, you will need the documentation to access that account. You will have to jump through hoops because Google has a legal obligation to keep a person's information private and confidential and safe during life and even in death. And in the absence of the person laying out his or her desires through Google, Google has to default to state law and require testamentary papers. There are no clear guidelines as to what happens to monetization, but what I see happening is that YouTube will not automatically remove a channel or remove a channel's monetization. YouTube reserves the right and its discretion to remove monetization from channels if the channel is inactive and not uploading and posting. So YouTube doesn't know who passes away. They just see inactivity, or the algorithm triggers inactivity, and therefore monetization starts to decrease. If a person hasn't posted in 6 months or so, the monetization will slowly start to decrease over time. Again, 6 months is inconsistent to the default of 3 months of inactivity, but this is why I'm telling you that the law has not caught up, and YouTube, Google still struggling with laying out a clear framework for its users to take down inactive channels, and when is the appropriate time, and is it based on this or is it based on that. So as you could see, it's not as congruent as it should be. The importance of making a designation through Google is that the personal representative gets to step in, download your body of work, upload it, put it somewhere, save it somewhere, create a channel in your memory, and then be able to continue to monetize from there. This can happen seamlessly if that person plans ahead. Also, a person can have access to the sign-in information and bypass all of this. But in the event that you don't provide this access, these are the steps. You go in and you designate someone. That makes it easier to you. If you care about what happens to your digital asset, you should make a plan for what happens to them after you die. Whether or not the assets pass through your will, you can give your loved ones the information they will need to go into your account and files and make the changes you want. If you do not leave them clear instructions and access information, they won't know your wishes, and there's very little chance they will be able to get into your accounts from the company. Your executor, the person who wraps up your estate, the person you choose when you die, will likely need this access anyway, and there's no default that they automatically will have access just by showing they're the executor. They will likely need to access your digital assets, even if none of them pass through your will. Your executor may need access to your digital assets to pay bills, distribute property, or follow any instructions that you leave with what you want done with your digital files and online access. So just leave it on a piece of paper for them or include it in your will. Although your executor will need access, it's almost impossible to get access if you do not provide the login information. It's that simple. This is the foolproof way that the executor of your loved ones, your next of kin, is able to access and have control over your information, and bypass having to go to the court in order to get the authority to act on your behalf. Otherwise, they do not have the legal authority to access a deceased person's information without the court ordaining it or appointing them to be able to do that. So even if you're in your will, you leave them the explicit authority to access your information, just leave the login information. It's simple enough. And practically speaking, even if the law in states where executors do have some legal authority, executors will still encounter several hard steps, strong resistance from the companies that manage the accounts, because again, their priority is protecting data and information of its users. The best thing you can do is just leave the information for them. This allows everything to operate seamlessly and easily during a time of mourning. So that is that. I will have some links as to how you can go in and lay out who you want to be your trusted person through Google. I'll just leave a link, and it's really easy. You do that, share it with other people who may not know about this information. Let me know if you have any questions. Is this what you anticipated in terms of how Google will handle or YouTube will handle an account of a person who has passed away? I was surprised by this. I didn't realize it was so convoluted and difficult. But again, it's the law, and the law is always behind the technology. So let me know your thoughts. Again, this is the legal code. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share with anyone else you think will find value. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.